Okay.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining to all of you. And basically, we're all in the IoT business in the elevator world. I was wondering if we could share some thoughts and interests with each other about the market we are operating in, and since we all have different kind of solutions, but in the end we face some of the challenges we face are the same for us all. Welcome back, Marty. So just if I can start with you, can you give me in a short way your vision of the future of the market in the short term and maybe the long term as well?
I'm sorry, did you ask me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So I think that IoT means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and there's a lot of ways to deliver information. I think that what we're all trying to figure out is the right level of information for the right cost, because you're able to do a lot of things with machinery, but a lot of those things are not useful for the end user, and if they are, it's very expensive to obtain. So I think that the question for IoT as a whole is relating to what's the right sweet spot for the right amount of information for the right cost. And different users are going to be needing different specializations. So are we going to specialize and have different specialist groups within IoT, or are we going to have one platform that encompasses it all? And if it's going to encompass it all, where's that price point? Because to invest in IoT, to be able to do it all is going to be probably very expensive and to develop, and thus very expensive for the customer.
Agree. Yeah. Robert, what's your view on the nearby future and maybe the long-term future of development in the market?
Okay, well, first of all, I thought it was very interesting what Josh said there. I have a mechanical background, so not so much the data-driven background, and I've also been within the sector quite a long time. So it's interesting to hear somebody talking from a different perspective, but it was very interesting. Short-term vision, I think the IoT business for itself, when it comes to elevators, needs to support customer. One clear aspect is that it needs to support the customer, and the customer being not necessarily the end user. I think he should also, or he or she should also benefit, but the customer in the end, they should benefit most. We have enhanced analytics, we have enhanced insights into what the elevator does. There's so many things that IoT can do. On the short term, I think it should really optimize the experience for the customer. Yeah. On the long time, I think it should be more integrated into the whole building. And of course, that brings up a lot of other questions, but I'll stick with this for now.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Marty, same question to you. By the way, the sound is much better now. There's no background noise anymore. So
Sure. Thanks
for moving.
Sure. I agree with Josh. There's a lot. What I find in the past couple of years is customers. This space, while IoT's been around, this space in predictive analytics and IoT, especially in America, is people are still trying to grasp it. They don't know what they want, to be quite honest. And that goes back to what Josh mentioned about the data. Some customers that are forward thinkers, the futurists, they get it. They understand predictive. They understand not just counting, but actually giving them predictive information that helps them determine when there's going to be a problem before there's a problem. I think in our space, specifically in the elevator world, there's a lot of running around putting out fires, and that's just you really, to grasp what we're doing in this space, you have to use IoT as not just IoT. It's just a tool. It's like a hammer or a wrench. Which one do you need? But we're trying to solve business problems and do it in a non-proprietary way, which is a huge disruption to this market. Everybody's locked into proprietary solutions, and we're non-proprietary, and that's the way we want to keep it. Open source, do what's right for the customer, and change the business. So That's kind of where I see things going.
I agree. I think it's a little bit the same for me as well. Our view on the market is mainly that the IoT market is not really there yet, so to speak. So you have some pioneering companies that are really interested, but the majority of the customers I speak to is willing to hear the story. They like the idea, but then they are not ready to take the step yet. So it's kind of still developing the market, and that sometimes is frustrating because you have a very good discussion. You can show them where the benefits are, but it's very difficult to get them over that first hill, So I think we agree on that, and I think it's the main challenge is to feed the market with the idea that IoT is here to stay and it will be the future. I think we all know that the multinationals, the bigger elevator companies are all working on IoT, so there is the answer already. This will be the future, but the market isn't really there yet. So that's I think we share kind of the same view on this. I already said, this is, I think, the biggest challenge. Are there any other challenges that we see as in the market for now?
I see a lot of challenges around. I see the marketplace and the smart buildings in this industry, not just with what we do with elevators, but just everything from HVACs to water to just sensing everything. It's like a land grab, sort of like 2000 was with the internet. Everybody was, throwing up websites and, how many eyeballs can I get? And what's happened is these proprietary solutions have come in and created, for the HVACs, and I won't mention any names, but we all know who they are. And then the water sensing and all these different companies, but that doesn't help the customer, because what ultimately happens is the customer in the facilities, they're trying to run a business. And here they have 15 logins from 15 UIs, and it's just a nightmare. So I think what you're going to see, and we see this with customers all the time, they find out about us, or they find out about something to do with sensors, with predictive in some other arena. And then when we start talking to them, we open their eyes, and we spend a lot of time evangelizing about this, and I'm sure Josh does too, that it's a matter of there's a big world here, and we see a lot of customers like deer in headlights as far as what's available. And then they start digging into it, and they go down the rabbit hole of, oh, wow, I can do that, I can do this. And so what I see playing out over the next few years is some real champions coming out on the platform side. And I see when that happens, you will see, and they're already out there, but I do see the big boys. And when I say big boys, I mean the big tech getting involved, because, Josh has the same model, a SaaS-based model. And, when we start talking about, the Amazons and the Googles of the world, they see what makes sense as well. And that's where things are going with everybody moving to the cloud. And so that's the big issue I see is who's going to be the land grab winner right now. And I think there's room for lots of people.
Do you see a clear leader right now as the consolidating factor or the consolidating platform?
I don't. I see some winners. I see the same situation that we have in, with what started out in the elevator controller space, where it was, we're going to build non-proprietary stuff. And then all of a sudden it got locked down and it became proprietary. And that world will change with the platform companies because it's all APIs. So I don't see a true winner yet. I see some big winners, but I think, like everything else, this space will get consolidated into bigger sections of bigger tech companies. And that's when there'll be big money put behind it, and you'll see a consolidation, and you'll see the platforms roll out into the world that we know, which is, Azure and Microsoft and Amazon Web Services and things like that. I think we're still, somebody was asking once on a panel, where are we? And this was 2 years ago in this space. And the old heavyweights said, well, I think we're in the 7th inning of a baseball game. And honestly, I think we're still getting out of the dugout. I mean, we haven't even started the game yet. It's early. So there's lots of rooms for lots of players. And who knows who will win? It's going to be fun.
Marty, what do you think? So until the platform is established, of course, we will still have IoT. We still have devices that we can measure the elevators with. So what do you think the hurdles are for customers currently? If you just put that IoT platform as a major benchmark, put that to the side for a minute. What are currently people stopping from getting onto IoT?
I think it's the same thing as what Josh mentioned about data. There's a cost to data, right? I mean, I can put our sensor on an elevator and I can give you very, very deep data. I mean, as deep as you want to go, as much as you want to go, but that's a cost. And that's a cost in cloud. That's a cost in cell. Cells are getting a lot cheaper, but that's a cost in cloud. And when a customer that's price sensitive, and we see price sensitivity, more so outside the United States, but that is an issue. So, the hurdle is how much data do you need to get what you want to solve? Do you want door counts? Do you want to know the health of your elevator? Do you want to know the data science, dig down deep? And it's a package. It's going to cost more. And that it's like Moore's Law. Everything will get cheaper over time, and it's a scalable thing. So, but I see that and the fact that, especially in the elevator space, it's old school. They haven't grasped the whole predictive piece of technology yet. So they understand door counts. They understand how many times a car runs up and down and what floor is it on. That's it. That doesn't help you with solving your problem of keeping your elevator running, which is the predictive piece of it. That just
Marty, and one big issue we run into when we talk to elevator companies and service companies is that selling visits is their business model. So you really, I mean, they are afraid that the new business model will not be as profitable as their current one, if it already is profitable anyway. But the new business model, I'm convinced that there is room for extra margin and extra profit if you go to predictive maintenance. But it's difficult. I mean, they've been thinking in this way for maybe 50, 60, 70 years. And that's again, I mean, changing is you get resistance.
Yeah.
Well, that's the main issue.
Part of that's evangelizing to the actual elevator service companies that it's not about, this is an extra cost. It's not about taking people out of their jobs. This is about using your resources more effectively versus calendar-based visits, driving all over town, especially in the COVID environment, right? Why would you go and work on an elevator for a maintenance that doesn't need it today when you can do it next week, when you can better organize your schedule based on your staff? That is, to me, if I'm talking to a business owner, they get it. If I'm talking to someone that just services elevators, they're used to the calendar model. And so it's all we can do at this stage of the game is talk to people that actually understand what I call futurists, the guys that get it, and the rest will come along. It's just a matter of time.
So what have you guys found that resonates when you found a customer that says, yeah, I'm a futurist and I get it? What has been that linchpin or the clicking moment where they've been able to say, all right, this is worth paying for?
I think it's a matter of, go ahead.
I've been in touch with customers that they've actually been assigned, they have a new role as a sustainability manager, and under that umbrella sort of falls the entire building. So they need to be able to monitor whatever energy costs, lighting costs, CO2 levels, name it, and they're sort of responsible for it. And then in the end, after some brainstorming and after some internal discussions or workshops, they all seem to come to the same logic that they say, well, I need to have a platform, as in the API, upon which I can sort of monitor all these signals. So that at any given moment, I can see if the heating is required on the third floor and if the lift on the second floor is still working, et cetera, et cetera. That's where it currently lies with the customers that I speak to. So they have an understanding that they need to have a sort of an integrated view, but at the view itself, that's where it stops. Because there are so many different platforms, like you said, Marty, it's very difficult for him to have that complete overview. And and that's currently where their battle lies. So the step behind that, to go into predictive maintenance, to go into performance-based contracts, et cetera, they're not there yet.
No, and you nailed it. I mean, that's exactly right. So when you're asking what's the linchpin, everybody's got a different pain point. I mean, it's a matter of talking to the customer and understanding what that pain point is. But you nailed it, Robert. I mean, it's a matter of these customers, when they want it, but then they start understanding there's more to it. That slows down the whole adoption, because we're trying to do this with boilers and the water system and the HVACs and everything else. And elevators are, I mean, let's face it, they're kind of the thing that everybody forgets about, but you can't get to the 30th floor without it. You know, I mean, it kind of is what it is. But if you're doing I talk to customers about smart buildings, and even the definition of a smart building is not really defined yet. I mean, especially in Europe, in America, I don't even think we know what a smart building is still. But in Europe, they think they have a definition of a smart building, but they don't really talk about elevators. So is it really all that smart?
Thing is that what works for us is if you're in contact with a customer that really has this future view, then well, you can have a good conversation. But what really works is, and they need to be willing to share a lot of information with you. But if they do, then you can work out a business model for them that actually works only with the elevator. So basically, the system pays itself off, and there is a whole lot of more information to be and profit to be gained in the future if you start connecting all these IoT devices together. I mean, but I'm not even talking about that with a customer. If I can make the business model work only on the elevator, then it's easy to explain to their superiors. Then you get funding. But another thing I see is that, and I don't know if that's in the States as well, but in Europe, everybody says, hey, this is a good idea. We're going to start a pilot project. And to be sure, they just want to test if the sensor or whatever is working. I'm selling something, I know it works. So what are you going to test? What actually are you going to test? And if you ask that question, they most of the time do not have an answer. Because, well, they let's test it. And then half a year later, yeah, it works. So what are you going to do with it? So there's the idea of working on a business model and really calculate for them and show them where the extra profit is, or the extra service is, or whatever. And then, basically calculate it down to euros or dollars or whatever. That's basically what works for us now. But I agree, then you're skipping a whole lot of future developments, and you're not even talking about these that are beneficial as well. So basically, you're narrowing down your solution.
Yeah, I can guarantee you we're all experiencing the same things because, you just said it. I mean, of how the market is. You can't force a market to move. All you can do is look for the players that are actually understanding it. And as time goes by, bigger players will come in, things will change, and there'll be more of an adoption. But I think, the biggest hurdle to all of this and what we're doing in the elevator space is the market itself is learning, I can do this and I can do this, and how do I do that? And then it becomes like if you're married and your wife asks you to go pick out a paint, you want 3 choices, but if she gives you 50, you just throw your hands in the air and go, I don't know, and that's sort of the issue is it becomes too hard for the C-level suite guys to make decisions when they're talking about monitoring this and monitoring that and monitor all these other things. If you can keep them focused on the elevators, then you have something. But it's a rabbit hole. I mean, they're going to go down it, and that's a good thing.
Has Predictive been able to really be a catalyst for making those executives change their mind and focus?
I think some have. I think it's like I don't even talk about predictive anymore because I've already moved so far past predictive to prescriptive, but the customers can't even get to predictive. So it's a matter of I know where the market's going in 5 years. We're going to be at prescriptive. but we have to get to predictive. We have to get machine learning. We have to get from there to prescriptive. And that's what everybody wants. As soon as we introduce customers to this and show them what's capable, they start asking for, well, what specific part's broken? How do I get that part? And I'm like, we will get there. Nobody's there. And if anybody says they're there, they're lying, because prescriptive's not there. Until you have millions of these things, yours at Lift AI, ours at Data Hoist, your guys at Roberts, everybody has devices running, and there's tons of data out there, and we're pushing this through data models, and we're getting integrated into field service machine systems. You're not going to get to prescriptive, but that's what customers want. They just don't know all the pieces to get there yet. Everybody wants to go run a marathon, but they've never got off their couch to even walk a half a mile. So that's the biggest challenge to the market I see, and we'll get there, but we have to train them. So
I agree, Marty. So well, basically, we already discussed that this potential market is huge, and there will be room for all of us and a bunch of other people as well. So what I'm interested in, we see some of the nearby future developments. We see the same challenges. Is there a way we can work together on challenging these things that we see? Is there a way where we can make ourselves stronger and change the market in a faster way if we do things together?
I think that there is. I think that the first problem is people don't know that they have a need, and you've got to educate them on a need. And the need is that there is data. They understand that there's data, but the need is to be able to connect the data with some tangible result that they care about. And the tangible result that they care about is either decreased cost, increased uptime, or increased safety, and that's it. Yeah. And if there's a direct link to forcing that conversation and that realization that there's a need, then it's easier to do things that are new maintenance models, because the new maintenance model then shifts to instead of having data just be some extraordinary layer out here in the stratosphere, there's actually a direct link to my contract with my building. And if we can educate people that there are that they have a need, that data can then translate into a new maintenance model. The new maintenance model then is the characteristic that drives cost, uptime, and safety. And I think that all of us can do in terms of an education, and let then the consumer decide if they want, what level of information, what delivery mechanism, which we all differ on. And that's, I think, where the market is at least open to all of us.
I agree. So basically, we are trying to educate the market all in the same way. Basically, we're telling we are showing them the point on the horizon where they want to go to, and then once we have established that in the market, then it's up to the market to decide what solution fits their system the best. I mean, again, the market is big enough, and there's no need for us to not share information up to a certain point, of course. But I think we agree that we see some of the same problems we all face, and the sooner these are out of the way, the sooner we all can go on with our own business. So I agree with you, Josh, that we need to show the market where these different solutions all end up to, and what the possibilities are, and let the market decide whatever solution is best for them.
And I think one other piece that we can all do is making that step less fearful for the service companies, because if you look at the model of preventative healthcare as a corollary to preventative maintenance on an elevator, for instance, at least in the short term, being in the duration of years, not weeks or months, but years, when preventative healthcare is implemented, it drives up usage of healthcare. It does not decrease healthcare.
Right.
And if you're talking to a service company, one of the ways to educate them is this is not a replacement for what you do. This is an enhancement of what you do, and is certainly going to drive a new level of business for you that maybe is a little different, but it's still it's a revenue increase opportunity. It's not we're not trying to take away your workers. We're not trying to take away your revenue sources. And that's, I think, where we all have an obligation to make to make people less worried about what this change actually means for their business, and help them step through it with giving them the playbook to say, here's what you do to win a new customer. Here's what you do for a new maintenance model. Here's what you do for a new maintenance contract. These are the data points that you need to care about, that you need to monitor. Just like your car, somebody picked that you get your oil changed that every 5,000 miles, or I guess what is that? 10,000, not double, but 8,000 kilometers. Somebody picked that metric, and it's not necessarily needing to be precise, because if you get your oil changed at 4,950 miles or 7,950 kilometers, it doesn't really matter relative to 8,000. It's just in that bandwidth. So yes. I think that we have to give pretty tangible steps to make it less fearful for people, so that they're not thinking that this is some just amorphous cloud that they're stepping into when they think about all the data. You've got to make it very specific.
Agreed. Yeah. And you also mentioned the fear amongst especially mechanics. I mean, we see that in Europe as well. A typical mechanic will think, well, this is gonna bite my business. This is my work. I'm not used to a computer. I am a human being. I'm better than a computer. But in the end, I think that's in the United States as well. It becomes harder and harder to get good qualified engineers and mechanics in Europe. And as we all know, the number of elevators is still growing. So there will be a problem in having enough mechanics to work for you as a maintenance company. So you need to think about now about a way, how can I use my resources more efficiently? And IoT is the solution. It's not something that is against your business. It's going to help your business. And by the way, I think you need to start thinking about changing to IoT, because otherwise you will be so far behind then it's over.
Well,
I really think if you don't switch to IoT, then in the next 10 years, your business model will be gone.
There's also something that we can also help with the service companies, and it's brain drain. I mean, it's people are retiring in enormous numbers, at least in America. So, like you mentioned, with engineers and technicians, when our founder Dan Bryant got involved in this business, he was a service guy, and back in those days, the routes that they had much lower numbers, right? So they were like, anybody want to learn the engineering side of things? And he jumped on board and learned the engineering side of things. Nowadays, with the route numbers being so high, because the elevator numbers keep going up, these technicians are just putting out fires. They're running around literally 200, 300 elevators on a route. They can't even do predictive, or they can't do maintenance on any kind of scale. They're just putting out fires. So if you're a business owner and you want to grow your business, you can't scale that. It's the old saying of, you want to run fast, go by yourself. You want to run far, you go with a team. This is the solution to help you grow your business. And when I talk to business owners, if they grasp that, then they're going to grow. If they're not, I guarantee you 3 years from now, they'll be the same size or they've shrank. It's a fact of life. So, it's just another tool, the way I see it, to help grow your business.
I would agree. I think it's a progression of the market and the players within the market, and those that do not adopt it, they will eventually be the Nokias of this world, I suppose. I think the previous topic is more interesting in a way that how to convince customers they actually need this, because any business entrepreneur, either he gets it or he doesn't, and then there will be the next person that's going to pick up that piece of business. Because I think those customers that have decided for an IoT implementation, and it could be an elevator, it could be like you said, your heating system or your water, it doesn't really matter. They get it. So I think IoT is here to stay, but it's to convince the other 80-90% that haven't been convinced just yet on how to do it. And so explain the benefits, but the how. How is the customer going to interact with it? So if we combine all these problems that we foresee, these things that haven't been developed yet, so this API, the platform itself, how can a customer, let's say a developer, he owns 100 buildings, how can he effectively interact in such a way that this is going to bring benefits to him? I think that's also where we need to educate him that just buying a sensor or putting it on your elevator is not going to save the world.
Yeah.
What are your experiences in that? I don't know if we still have time for that, but what are your experiences in that? And actually, the practical solution, the implementing of processes, the incorporating of your technical help desk, your etc.
It's teaching the business how to be a business. I see that every day. It's not about. I mean, and honestly, I spend more time coaching people how to run their business. Once they get the sensors, then it's one thing to say, here's your sensor, you put it on, and this is what you get. But you have to literally walk them through how they use it and how it's going to improve their business and their processes. And if you don't do that, we fail. All of us, everybody in this room fails. If you just sell a sensor and you don't teach them how to run their business with this new technology, we all fail. That's the bottom line. But the predictive piece of this I find interesting because people are still trying to wrap their heads around predictive, and it's like the Boeings of the world, they've been doing this for years. Nobody gets in a plane now. Yes, planes crash. I mean, but come on, engines don't just stop, right?
Not too many.
Right. I mean, engines work because they're doing predictive, maintenance on these things. Elevators the same way. I mean, an elevator should have 98% uptime, and the 2% should be down for predictive maintenance. Not today, but it will be when we get to prescriptive, because you'll know what's going on when the person shows up. They'll know what parts needed. They'll know exactly how to fix it. Throw a little AR, VR in there, and the guy's going to know exactly how to fix it that's never worked on an elevator, because it's all going to be there. That's where the future of what we're doing is going. It's just a matter of, and that's the future. If you go around a Boeing plant, you see the guys with the iPads and the VR headsets. That's where we're heading. And we're going to have to, because people nowadays, our parents probably went to work and stayed at a company for 35 years, got their pensions, and retired. That world doesn't exist anymore. People switch jobs, especially younger people. Every year or two, they're on to a different job. We're going to lose. We're losing all that knowledge in the industrial space, not just the elevator space. It's about getting all of this information into data models and moving it into the predictive phase, or else that knowledge is going to be gone forever, because those guys are retiring. To me, that's the big push for elevator service companies. If you want to grow your business, you're going to have to be able to put service guy A and service guy B into a situation where they know how to solve the problem, and this is a tool to help them do it.
I agree, Marty. Yeah, I think we are already 11 minutes over time, so otherwise Wouter will kick us out, I guess. So I want to thank you all for joining. It was a pleasure to meet you guys. I mean, I know Robert from the past, but I hadn't had the privilege to meet Josh and Marty, but we have now. I think for the future, we know each other, and whenever we want to discuss anything, let's just pick up the phone or send each other an email. I mean, we can talk for hours, I'm sure.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, it's a great meeting you guys.
Nice to talk to you guys. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.